Good morning, bonjour, buenos dias, or good afternoon in some instances. Uh, a hearty welcome to everyone to this 20th session hosted by IICA and COLEAD. And today we will be discussing a very interesting topic. We'll be looking at financing Caribbean agri-food entrepreneurs, strategies for accessing investment. My name is Allister Reynold Glean. I am the representative in Barbados for the Inter-American Institute for Cooperation on Agriculture. And I'm excited because we have a really packed and dynamic cadre of panelists to share insights with us today. Now, I am often accused of speaking too much, so I'm going to be as brief as possible today. And we've changed things around this time around, where I am leading off, and then my colleague Nina will close off the session today. Let me start off by saying that this partnership between IICA and COLEAD is of critical importance. We recognize that we need all hands on deck to contribute to driving agribusiness development in the region. Now, the market generally drives us, and we know that we import in the region over $6 billion of food annually. This is a huge figure, and we know that our regional governments have mandated agencies, entrepreneurs to work towards reducing the regional food import bill. We have a mandate for 25 by 25 plus 5, 2030 to reduce that food import bill. And we want to ensure that all agencies are collaborating and supporting these efforts. Yeah. We also know that intra-regional trade accounts for only about 10% of these imports. And the question we have to ask ourselves is, why is this still an untapped opportunity? And we know that there are a number of challenges facing our agri-SMEs, small and medium-sized enterprises, and in particular, we focus on micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises. And these agribusinesses in the region, they have potential to add value to our economies and to contribute to the reduction of the food import bill. However, they require the support of all agencies. As I said before, all hands need to be on deck. Now, this motivates us to contribute to this process. And I'm talking about IICA and COLEAD. We also encourage the information sharing from you, the audience, to tell us how we are doing and what topics you need as agri-MSMEs to advance your business. Let me say that IICA has a new administration led by Dr. Mohammed Ibrahim. He's our new Director General, and he's committed to this partnership with COLEAD, and he's committed to reducing the food import bill in the region. I would also say that we have embraced this partnership with COLEAD. COLEAD has been really dynamic and awesome, contributing significant resources to advancing agribusinesses in the region. And we hope to strengthen our partnership with more interventions beyond this agribusiness series. I promise I won't spend much time. So let me move forward and ask some of our colleagues to share some insights before we go into the panel discussion. Now, after I asked my colleagues, Mr. Jeremy Knops and Mr. Wilmot Garnett, to share insights, then I'll provide some housekeeping rules for today's session. With that said, I would like to take the opportunity to welcome our speakers today. First, we will start with Mr. Jeremy Knops, and he will contribute a few words before we get started. Let me introduce Jeremy. Now, Jeremy, he holds a master's degree in business engineering from the Solvay Brussels School of Economics and Management. And prior to joining COLEAD in 2009, he was involved in Guatemala with the daily operations of a farmer cooperative exporting loquats to the EU and the US. Now, he started to work for COLEAD as an expert in charge of matters related to private standards and certification for ACP producers and exporters of fruit and vegetables. Jeremy is an accredited coach for leadership and professional development, and he was appointed as General Delegate of COLEAD in June 2019. As I said, Jeremy leads COLEAD, and he is behind all the innovative and creative interventions we are seeing from the organization in the last few years. Jeremy, I welcome you to deliver a few remarks.
Thank you very much, Allister, and good morning, good afternoon to all of you. It's a real pleasure to be here today, which for this 20th session, really co-organized with our partner IICA, which I thank, of course, for this fruitful partnership that we've been leading so far. So 20th session today, and on a topic of paramount importance. As a matter of fact, if we look at the brief description Alistair made of my professional background, it corresponds a bit also to a certain extent to the evolution of COLEAD as an organization in terms of the type of support that we've been providing food sector operators to transform their operations more, to lead more sustainable operations. We've been very much focused as an organization through several programs on facilitating access to markets, wherever that might be, through support to comply with regulations, with standards. Of course, over the years, we realised, thanks to the feedback, of course, of all our constituency and the work that we've been performing in the field, that providing technical support to facilitate access to markets was good, but the number one issues also faced by MSMEs was this capacity to invest, so to access finance, in order to be able to develop their operations, in some cases to be able to access markets, because in order to be able to access markets, there are some investments that need to be, in some cases, made. So a number of years ago, we decided as an organization to try and tackle this topic holistically and more directly, meaning to really assume a kind of more economic positioning within the support that we were providing, recognizing that sustainability of food value chains depends first and foremost on the economic viability in order to be able to create positive social and environmental impacts. And so we've been designing a comprehensive kind of support packaging, starting really directly by working with MSMEs. And in that sense, the idea is, of course, to provide a support package in the first case to raise awareness, sensitize. What is access to finance? What does it mean? What are the different options out there? Moving, of course, to more structured support through collective support packages, customized support, and eventually leading to potential matchmaking in function, of course, of the need. So that's the first level of intervention. The second level of intervention is working more at an ecosystem level in countries or across countries. There are a number of financial actors, organizations that have been increasingly active in the agri-food sector over the years, now recognizing the strategic importance of the sector. But this, of course, it requires some work hand in hand to try and sensitize on the importance to design the right financial instruments in light of the most pressing needs expressed by the type of operators, MSMEs, that for us, according to us, are really driving the food sector and the food sector of tomorrow. And the third level is really at a more policy global level. It's sensitizing on the importance of this topic in order to progressively be able to tackle some of the structural barriers that prevent SMEs to access finance. So it starts, of course, with the perception of risk of the agricultural sector, and some subsectors within the food industry are perceived as more risky than others. There's also on the sense of collateral and so on. So those are kind of the three broad areas where we've been working over the years, and we've been happy to be able to partner. And I see that later we'll have a colleague from EDFI also on the AgriFI on the AgriFI fund to be able to partner more directly with some of these financial organizations or financial instruments, impact funds, to be able to couple technical support to these entities in order to make sure that the funding, the investment that is being made is fully leveraged, or to ex ante enable that support, financial support, to be delivered. And that's really, in a nutshell, what we try to do at COLEAD. To bounce back on Alistair's introductory remarks. We cannot do this alone. The scale here, the magnitude of what needs to be done requires us all to work hand in hand, to work in partnership. And in that sense, we're extremely happy to be able to discuss this topic today with all of you in partnership with IICA. On this note, I would like to thank, of course, all of you for attending this session, for taking the time, and especially the panelists for your expertise, for the time, for the stories you're going to share with us, because that's the spirit of these series. It's being inspired, learn, exchange experiences, and also enable some B2B connections to be made between yourselves through the Agri-Innovators platform, which we hope you're all registered on. So that's it for me. I wish you, of course, a fruitful session, and I'm looking forward to today's exchanges. Thank you, Allister. Back to you.
Thank you for those wonderful words, Jeremy. Indeed, as I said, COLEAD is doing a lot. I want to encourage you to go to COLEAD's website and go to the Agri-Innovators site as well. Get logged in, get registered, be able to access all the sessions we've had. Please share the information with your colleagues. Information is power, and a lot of times we don't seem to recognize how critical it is to ensure that all stakeholders have access to the critical information that allows them to advance. So again, Jeremy, we are appreciative of the collaboration, and thank you for joining us this morning. I want to move on to introduce one of my colleagues, Mr. Wilmot Garnett, who is the IICA representative in Guyana and liaison for CARICOM actions in the region. He has served on the board of directors of the Guyana National Agricultural Research and Extension Institute. Wilmot holds a Master of Science degree in Soil and Plant Sciences from the California State Polytechnic University in the US. Formerly, he chaired the Belize Biosafety Committee in Belize and helped to develop a biosafety policy and supporting legislation. He has also managed the Central American REN sector projects in Belize, focusing on improving appropriate technology for small grain producers. Wilmot also has chaired the regional Prosi-Caribe Fruit Network and developed technical packages for selected fruits and orchard management. He has been a key player in supporting the overall reduction of the food import bill in terms of the 25 by 25 and now the 25 by 30. And in terms of the networking in IICA, he is now the Special Affairs Coordinator for the Caribbean. I take this opportunity to welcome Wilmot to deliver a few remarks. Sir Garnett?
Thank you very much, Allister. And on behalf of our Director General, Dr. Mohammed Ibrahim, I bring greetings from the IICA team. First, let me say a special thanks to Jeremy, our colleague from COLEAD, not only a partner, but a strategic partner. And special welcome to our panelists. I took note that very diverse in the businesses, as well as the overall contributions in our region. All those that are connected, thank you for taking the time. And of course, the IICA team that also connected. But Jeremy, thanks again for this special opportunity. And as I said, it's not just a partnership with COLEAD, but a strategic partner. Why? Because as Allister highlighted and yourself, as we continue to advance the 25 plus 5, it is clear that we need to work collectively. Agriculture is a business. Agribusiness, we're very proud of the team here of panelists and all those that are connected. And this gives us a great opportunity for us to continue the work. In terms of our region, let me start by saying that we're very pleased that agriculture is back on the agenda at CARICOM. We have the political will, and now we need to ensure that the private sector have the necessary tools, because at the end of the day, we provide technical support, adjust the different policies accordingly, but we really need our private sector folks, all sizes, to drive this development. So this is an opportune time. I must say that looking at the program and the work that we've done so far with COLEAD, Jeremy, is that it's the highlight the priority areas for the region. And this is very important because we have a monthly meeting with the ministers of agriculture, and what we're doing here lends itself to our priorities, which means that we can work together, present these certain a regional plan in terms of what instruments we need, and I'm certain that we collectively we can get the support. The reality today is that the global supply chain is severely disrupted, and this is something that is we got to deal with. And both the public and the private sector needs to work closer, whether it's through the public-private partnership. We have some examples in the region. This is something that we at IICA encourage, and the work that we're doing with COLEAD certainly lends itself to help build capacity in that area. Public-private partnership, it's not new. We have some workable and very successful opportunities right now and best practices in the region. So both the private sector and the public sector is key, and we need to work together. But some of the things that we may want to look at is it gives us an opportunity now to access affordable finance. And this has always been an unfortunate situation. This is something that we could look at to address. But we need to also, with the partnerships, we also need to spread the risk. And so this is a very good opportunity here. We need to modernize the collateral option. I was reading the concept note, and this is a major obstacle, especially in our region, especially when it comes to women and youth, what the banks are requiring and so on. And while I talk about the banks, one of the things that we've been encouraging, for example, we have the 100 million US that's available for agribusinesses, varying sizes, the Republic Bank. But what happened is that we need to have agriculture specialists in the banking system, working with the FIs, because it's extremely difficult to engage those respectfully, those that have portfolio, for example, for housing loans and student loans and vehicles and so on, to fully grasp and understand what are the requirements for agriculture, which is very different. We're known to be high risk, but there are many, many examples of very successful agri-enterprises, both in our region as well as outside our region. So this is one area that we can work also. And I'm very happy to mention that at IICA, as part of the CARICOM network, Allister is chair for the Business Development Thematic Group, which looks at finance, credit, transportation, and the private sector. So here again, as usual, our colleague Allister, wearing many, many caps, is available, and this network is readily available. A couple other things is that we may also want to look at the insurance. We have an insurance scheme that is being introduced in the region now. It has worked for banana, for example, in Guyana. We're looking at rice because you need to be organized. This is important. This is very important that we need to be commodity driven. We need to be organized. We need to share information. And we got to look again, while I talk about information, we got to be realistic. One of the challenges that we have in our region is data. And how do we validate this data? How we analyze the data? How we share? Is the data available? Data is power. Some people don't share. We need to share more so that the banking sector, for example, can be aware of the work that we're doing, run the numbers, and support us with these financial instruments that we are discussing today and so on. This is an opportune time for us. As Allister mentioned, Jeremy and colleagues, everyone connected, because we have a new Director General, and we're currently working with what we call our medium-term plan and a Caribbean strategy for 2026, 2020, 30. So please, let's be open today. The conversations that we'll have today and so on can certainly help us to identify what areas we're going to be focusing on in agribusiness, as we call it, agribusiness and trade in our region. So this is an opportune time. Allister and the team will be taking notes. We hope to, we need to have this document by June. And this will dictate to us, IICA, what we'll be focusing on in many different thematic areas, but specifically agribusiness and trade. Policy is key, very important with the work that we do. And so this is very timely and everything. So thanks again. Everyone, please be active. Let's continue the communication. And as Jeremy said, this is one of many. And Jeremy, let me be very clear that IICA will continue to work very closely with COLEAD, and we'll also be looking at other partners. And Allister, we need to take what we have here. We'll prepare a little brief, and for the next ministerial task force meeting that IICA also sit to provide technical support, I want to bring this up with our minister so that we get the necessary support. Thanks, everyone. All the best.
Wilmot, let me thank you for those words. Very inspiring and very motivating. And definitely will take you up on some of the opportunities to engage the ministerial task force. And you have the commitment of your colleagues in the region, and I'm sure of COLEAD. COLEAD has been working with us to get more involved in, as I said, other interventions other than the agribusiness area, looking at food safety and SPS, resilience. We're also looking at the bioeconomy and enhancing productivity. So there are a number of areas where we want to expand the collaboration, all with the aim of strengthening food security and reducing the dependence on extra-regional imports. So Wilmot, let me thank you again. I want to move quickly to the panel. Now, our first panel will comprise 3 agri-entrepreneurs. And let me set some ground rules before we proceed. Firstly, each agri-entrepreneur will be allotted 10 minutes to deliver their presentation. As they draw near to the end of the presentation, I'm going to give them a signal to wrap up 2 minutes before, 1 minute before. In terms of the audience, you can place your questions or comments in the chat, and these comments or questions will be addressed at the end of the overall session. And once time permits, after the question and answer period, we will then move to have a final wrap-up by both panels. And I'm talking about the agri-entrepreneurs. When my colleague Nida comes on to moderate, she will moderate from the side of the experts or the development partners who support financing. So with that said, again, let me reiterate, place your questions and comments in the chat. We will collect them and then present them to the panel for their discussion. So folks, please get ready, get geared up. We're about to have an exciting session. Financing is on everybody's lips. Let's see what experiences the entrepreneurs have in accessing financing. And we're not just talking about loans, there are different financing mechanisms. Ultimately, though, we need financing investment to advance agribusinesses and to adopt technology and innovation. So I want to start with our first agri-entrepreneur. And we're going to hear from Akata Farms in the spy side rather of Grenada. And we're going to be hearing from Bevon Chadel Charles. And Bevon is a Grenadian entrepreneur and agricultural innovator, driving sustainable farming and inclusive economic growth. As the founder and CEO of Akata Farms, she combines climate-smart practices, digital tools, and land management to empower farmers and strengthen rural economies. She has developed Akata Grow. This is a platform that helps farmers track and improve operations while expanding access to finance. With a background in international business, AI, and sustainability, her work bridges agriculture and innovation. Beyond business, Bevon also advocates for youth leadership, gender equality, and climate resilience. She has also represented Grenada in several regional and international networks. We really are appreciative of Bevon taking the opportunity to present her experiences with us this morning. Bevon, you have the floor. You have 10 minutes. Please proceed.
Good morning, and thank you, Allister, for that introduction, and thank you for the viewers. Let's get right into it. So you could turn to the next slide, please. The first slide. Thank you. You know, we keep saying agriculture is important to the Caribbean, but if you follow the money, you follow the investment, you see a different story. As Allister, you start off saying, we import 60 to 80% of the food that we consume across the region, and that is $6 billion. And at the same time, small holder farmers, our agro-processors produce the majority of what we grow, up to 70, 80%. So logically, we would think that the capital would flow into these bases, but that is not what is happening. And I think we have to look from the perspective of the banking institution, and I get to understand it. Agribusiness doesn't behave like a typical investment. Cash flow is often seasonal, risk is external. We have weather, pests, and global prices. And these are not quick turnovers. So no, there is no guaranteed timeline. So from a purely financial lens, we have red flags from the start. But from agricultural lens, that simply is nature of production. You cannot rush a crop. You cannot negotiate with rainfall. And you certainly cannot apply a fixed repayment schedule to a variable biological process, right? So this is where we are right now. This is where the challenge. Agriculture, agribusiness in the Caribbean is not underinvested. I think there's a structural mismatch. I think we have designed financial system based on predicted markets, and then we point them towards a sector based on variability. So what are the results? We see banks are hesitating, there is no insurance, and if there is, they are inaccessible. We have high interest rates that does not reflect reality. And of course, other farmers, we are already managing production risk and are often left exposed to absorb these other financial risks as well. So the sector itself that feeds us is not treated as investable, or it is seen as unbankable. Next slide, please. Only about 10 to 20% of small farmers or agribusiness in the Caribbean regions have access to formal credit, right? Not because of lack of ability in their business, not because of unfit business models, but basically no formal credit collateral, though they may have land. No structured records for the business operation, even though they are producing and producing well. Irregular incomes, because agriculture doesn't sometimes pay monthly salaries. So from the outside, it looks as exclusion. But from inside the system itself, what I believe is a non-alignment. Funding do exist. We have grants, we have development finance, we have climate funds, we have impact investors. We are seeing more and more action towards funds for adaptation, mitigation, and even damage and losses. But access to that funding requires something specific. It requires structure, it requires clarity, and it requires readiness. And that is where, as entrepreneurs, we fall short. Not at the level of potential, but at the level of preparation. And we are not just dealing with a financial gap. I think we are dealing with an access gap. Now, if you understand, I think if we kind of put that in a more serious perspective, I think we are then to move differently from the policy, from down to our banking institution, to even us as agripreneurs. I think we will move differently because there are pathways. Next slide, please. Grants are often the entry points, but they require compliance, reporting, and alignment. Then we have technical assistance, and I think these are the quiet engines. We have support from Caribbean Export. I myself have received technical support from even IICA training for Caribbean Export. And this is where the capacity is built, where you learn to think beyond the production and into systems, markets, and scalability. Then you have development finance. This is where agriculture meets global priorities, such as climate resilience, gender equality. You have sustainability. But this is often competitive, and alignment is often not optional. And of course, we have the traditional financial mechanism. You have the banks and loans and so forth. But by the time you get there, you must look like you have a business and not just an operation. And I think this is the shift us as agribusiness, us within the agricultural space often miss. Because I believe the finance does not respond to effort. I think it really responds to structure, having the structure of your business done in a specific way, legal, whether it's legal, legally registered, whether you have your tax compliance, have these structures in place to make you more credible. Next slide, please. So, farms, and I think I will touch here based on my own experience. I'm a second-generation farmer, and my father did everything traditionally. He planted, and then he prayed and hoped crops grew. And then he will harvest, and then he will find markets and sell. And oftentimes there were no track record of that process. All the money put into the farm went back out, and there was, as I said, no track record of it. So when we started off in 2016, I knew I had to do things differently. We were not really seeking large capital at the time, but we wanted to build something that was around discipline and structure. The first thing we did was register the business. Mind you, we were not even operating in terms of bringing in revenue, but we needed to have that legal structure in place. And I think a year later, and this was around the time when we got legally registered in 2020, actually, and then COVID and all of that stuff. And then in Grenada, we had the Grenada Development Corporation. They had a COVID relief fund targeting women in business, whether it's a farmer, an agro processor, you're able to access the fund. But one of the requirements that they needed was for you to be legally registered and also to be tax compliant. And we were able to have those documents in place. We were able to receive that funding. That was our first external investment into the business. And we used that to set up our first irrigation system, as well as our propagation site. A couple of months later, I myself took part in a Commonwealth Youth Award, and there was a cash incentive at the end of it that we helped put into the business itself and a different aspect of it. Because at the time we were working along with some of the youths in our communities, and we wanted to show that we're not just producing, but how does a farm help develop the community itself? And we just applied for this grant. This opportunity with the Commonwealth Secretariat, and we were successful, right? But as time moved on, we kept our records, even though our numbers were small. We were sometimes some months we were making losses, but we kept our records, and we kind of explained why it is that we were making these losses. How can we improve our operation systems? And all of this was actually data we compiled to that time frame. But one of the things as we grew, we understood we have to align our work with some of the global priorities. We have the issue of climate change, and then we have a talk of climate smart agriculture. So we knew we had to kind of model our structure to suit those opportunities. Then in 2023, we learned of an opportunity targeting women in the Caribbean region for climate resilience. We were able to apply, and we were successful in obtaining that investment, which we used to, of course, expand our operation, our production, as well as our post-harvest system. And mind you, while that was happening, we were doing training in post-harvest interventions, sustainable land management, to help build that overall business itself, to strengthen our structure, to strengthen our operation. And the fund itself was targeting women. We were very fortunate to be a young woman, a youth in the sector, to be able to access that funding. That same year, we were able to take part in a 12-week training program, building capacity, helping us to build our model, our financial model, perfecting our pitch. And that was done through the Global Green Initiative. Out of the 12-week training, there was a grant. We didn't really apply for the program for the grant, but we really focusing at that time to build our business, to help us to identify the weak areas in our structure, as well as able to pitch to investors, to pitch before a bank. So we took part in that training to do that. But a couple of months later, that same institute came up with a program to give direct investments to businesses, and we were able to apply. We were successful again because we had that track record with that institute. We had gone through the 12-week training program with them. They helped us build and strengthen our structure. So we have created a relationship. We have created a relationship. So now we are able now to access new funding to help expand Akata farms in a different area.
2 more minutes, Bevon, to wrap up, please.
So we have local funding as well. And I think that is where Akata Farm really start making a dent. In Grenada, people are aware of us, what we are doing. We aligned ourselves with the government of Grenada. In 2024, there was a project to help develop communities, right? How can agriculture and agribusiness help promote sustainability in communities? We decided, well, we've seen globally when we look around us, we have people visiting farms for tours and farm to table. And there was a grant aligned to that. So we applied for that in terms of creating a new tourism model And this is just about aligning your business with the priorities around you so that you can be able to access the opportunities that are there, right? So we have been successful in terms of receiving funding. And I think our experience is really based on we have been disciplined, we have structured ourselves, we have been able to record our business over the duration of our operations. Whether it is good or bad, we have been able to document it. So when we go before a bank or we go before our investor, we're able to demonstrate this is what has been happening for the past 5 years. These are the challenges that we have faced. These are the opportunities. This is how we have received our funding. This is how we have retained our earnings over that period of time. So we showed ourselves to be credible and, of course, bankable. So if you have to give any advice, I would definitely say you have to document. You need to document. You need to keep record. Data is important. It is imperative as a business to have those information at hand. So when you meet an opportunity, you can access it. But as I said, there's a gap. We have weak recording systems in our Caribbean region. Often our farmers are focused on production rather than the business itself. So you have limited business structuring. And of course, you have low visibility because oftentimes farmers, whether stay in the land or agribusiness, whether stay in the background, are not in the limelight, right? So you have to kind of have a mixture of both at the same time. But as I said, another issue as well is you might have a fund available, you might have a structure in place.
Sorry to interrupt you, but I have to give you a minute to wrap up. You really have to wrap up now. You're way over time.
Okay, perfect. Okay, thank you. All right. So as I said, you need to have structure, and you need to have structure, and need to be able to present that before an investor or a financial institution. Record information is important. And if you start early to keep track of your records, and you're aligned with broader priorities, whether climate change or smart agriculture, I think you're able to access some of the funding that is available. Thank you, Allister.
Bevon, let me thank you for the wealth of information that you provided. I think this has been of significant benefit even to me. And I'm sure a lot of the audience would declare that this has been quite useful. And I want to encourage the audience to go to the Agri-Innovator sites where they can download your presentation and get more information on what you would have shared. And if you're willing, you can place your contact information in the chat, Bevon, so that persons can reach out directly to you to get more information, to get more support in terms of what they're doing. So I want to thank you again, Bevon. Let's move on to our next presenter, and this is Mr. Gordon Shallow. We are going next door to Grenada. We're going to St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and Gordon is the founder of the Plant Doctor. He is a phytopathologist with over 15 years of experience. I hope I pronounced that correctly. His interest in agriculture began in high school through hands-on gardening and farming, earning him a double award from the Caribbean Examination Council, CXC, for excellence in crop and animal sciences. In 2005, he earned a BSc in phytopathology from National Chong Sing University, and he returned to St. Vincent and the Grenadines, where he served as an Extension Regional Supervisor at the Ministry of Agriculture, and later as the curator at the St. Vincent and the Grenadines Botanical Gardens. And I see in his bio, he says that it's the oldest botanical garden in the Western Hemisphere. And I learned that at university as well, that St. Vincent and the Grenadines has the oldest botanical gardens, and he was a curator there. He also helped establish the Caribbean and Central America Botanic Gardens Network. It's called Botanical Bridges. And in 2022, Gordon developed organic agricultural products, including biopesticides and biofertilizers, securing grant funding from the Global Green Growth Institute and winning awards for Best Pitch and Most Outstanding Product Ideas. We are really blessed to have Gordon on this morning. Gordon, you have 10 minutes to deliver your presentation. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Allister. I hope everybody's hearing me and hearing me clearly.
Hearing you quite clearly.
A good day to everyone. So I'm going to go straight into the presentation. The Plant Doctor, as the business is called, is a biotech company that specializes in the manufacturing of natural and organic biopesticides and biofertilizers that guarantee safety and results. Next slide, please. So the genesis of the Plant Doctor, like a lot of businesses as of late, started out of the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, with it, we saw throughout the region, especially, that the shelves, a lot of the food that we imported, as was some of the stats were stated by the earlier persons who spoke, we import a lot of food from outside of the region, and that is very much detrimental to us. In St. Vincent and the Grenadines, I saw personally that shelves were going down. You know, we're getting very low in terms of food that was available to us. So food security was definitely highlighted. Added to that, during that time, I was just expanding my family. My wife and I were having our first son. She was pregnant at the time. And it really highlighted to me, you know, health and family, especially being a vegetarian myself. And I started to wonder, you know, I eat a lot of food, a lot of green stuff. And one thing stood out to me is that fertilizers were growing or were becoming scarce. We weren't able to import fertilizers for a short period of time during the pandemic, and that was very much alarming to me, seeing ahead the economic downfall that would come. And that was worried that persons wouldn't, farmers in particular, wouldn't be practicing the best and safest way of producing, and thinking about period larceny and those sort of things. Next slide, please. Next slide. Right. So my wife asked me, you know, so what are you gonna do about it, you know? And then I thought of, you know, what I could do out there. I tested the market. I went out. I saw what was the need. You know, I did little surveys and so on, and I came up with this line of products here. Basically, compost for as a slow release fertilizer, and introducing back health into the soils, and also potting mixes, because I realized a lot of farmers were then charged with growing a lot of their own seedlings and production. And then I came across my pesticide, which is a 3-in-1 fungicide, insecticide, and the bactericide, triple guard, which is a very good seller and so on, because I was worried again about best practices and health and moving from farm to table and so on. And of course, my other BioBoost and other products. So that was a solution that I came up with, tested it in market, make sure it was a good product market fit, and then from there started to invest. Next slide, please. Next slide. Right. So to this topic, financing. So what I did on my part of my process basically is bootstrapping. That's the first thing. You want to see how much money you have, probably using some of your savings, probably asking family and friends for little donations and so on to help to, again, test the market. And once you see that you have a viable product that is gaining traction in the market, you want sales. Now, in financing, and we'll go to some of the other points I have there in the slide, but one of the things that you definitely want to do, you want to have a business plan. You want to have a business plan, a clear business plan as to what you're going to do. And after that, you want to be able to register your business. You want to, in registering a business, you want to get a business account because you're running a business. That's the key thing here. And you want to keep records. Records is the most important thing that is going to leverage your efforts going forward. You want to have financial records of what you're doing, cost, loss, everything, and also projections. Because whether you're going to a financial institution, or I'm going to start here first with grants. Grants are an amazing way of getting finances in your early stage as a startup, as a business, whether an agribusiness or even any other business in general. Grants are good, but they are very limited, and in the sense that there are different criteria that you have to fit, and you wouldn't fit everything. So grants are good for the starting, but not necessarily for a continuation. So there on the slide I have GDGI, the Global Green Growth Institute. I got a grant from there, as was mentioned earlier by Allister. And also you want to look out from that for other NGOs that offer different funding. Low interest rate, or in the case of GDGI, they had another program called basically a free interest rate. There's none. There's no interest there. So those things again are good to pump a little more finances into your business and get it to a further stage. Now you want to not lean too heavily on these things, because I've seen businesses where all they do is continually looking for grants and so on. You want to be able to get off dependencies on these things and lean on your own 2 feet, and to show institutions that you know your business and you're growing. Again, records is absolute key. The best records that you can have is sales that shows traction in the market. Everybody looks for sales, right? So you go to a commercial bank, which I did, and took out a small loan again to leverage my business that way. One of the key things is records, as Bevon mentioned before. That is the key takeaway, I would say, from my presentation. If you remember nothing else, records is everything, because you have to set up your business as a business. You have to show whether the financial institutions or investors, right, that you're growing, you have a solid plan, what you're going to do, what you're about, where you're at, and where you're projected to go. So records is basically everything that I would definitely highlight. Next slide, please. Now, there are some constraints out there that I face, and in general that are out there. Again, you're not going to be able to secure every grant. You're not going to be able to get every loan and so on. And for me, these are the priorities, the constraints that I see out there, not just for myself, but in general. Gender is a big thing. There is a lot of grants and also programs, international, regional, and so on, that focus a lot on young women. Nothing is wrong with that, but that's just for persons to know. I've had my share of applying for a lot of grants, and only to find out the criteria that one, you have to be a woman, or you have to have a woman part of your business. Again, nothing wrong with that. And I'd like to put that out to say that, to me, I would encourage every young woman. There's no excuse in this point. For the last 15 to 20 years or so, you've seen an upsurgence of grants and other financial mechanisms that focus a lot on that. There's no excuse for young ladies who are in business, no matter what stage they are, early business or mature business and so on, to miss out on these grants. So I definitely encourage young ladies to do that. But that, as a matter of fact, a colleague of mine who also gained a grant from GGGI during my cohort eventually lost out on another grant because she turned 30. And that grant specifically said under 30. So I kind of chuckled with her, and I explained to her, this is kind of the things that I also explained about. And she was saying that when she was 27 and so on, she didn't necessarily know what she was doing with her business and so on. So she kind of saw the little con to that sort of hurdle in offering these financial aids. Age is another thing. Age, there's a big emphasis on younger people. Not bad, but I would encourage organizations to think outside of the status quo right now, of focusing solely on the young, but have some effort on the young, but broaden it and don't exclude other persons. I've met other persons, like in the same cohort, who was over 60 and able to get a grant from GGGI and is doing excellent. You know, a professional back in her days and so on, and knows specifically what to do and how to employ the funding that she got. Successful to this day.
Gordon, just that you know, you have a little over a minute again, Gordon.
Okay, great, perfect. So the last two things, it seems to me that anything agriculture in the traditional financial institutions, it's like a curse word. It's like it's horrible. It really say anything at all. A farm, a biotech company, agro-processing, whatever. It's a negative. And I like what some of the earlier colleagues said, that the institutions really need somebody who understands agriculture and not somebody who gives out house loans or the business loans. That's not the kind of person you want to be handing out or vetting agribusinesses. And also, if you're a startup, that's also seen as a negative. They want you to be robust and have already 10 years in the business and showing that sort of a thing. the financial institutions, it's easier for them to give you a loan to play carnival with $30,000 as opposed to a business that even has a 4 or 5 year records of, you know, being in the green. Next slide. Oh, okay, right. Thank you. So thank you very much for the opportunity.
Let me thank you again, Gordon. I am leaving this session with some words you said, record keeping. And that is something that we often hear about, but nobody likes to do. And I think that is something that maybe we need to address more forcefully to support agribusinesses to do better record keeping. And the other point you raised earlier, Clark, was the need to have a business plan. And I know that there's something Bevon spoke to as well. We need to have some sort of business plan showcasing the direction you want to go as a business and to instill confidence in your lenders. So we really appreciative of the insights that you shared, Bevon. Again, I would like to encourage the audience to place their comments or questions in the chat and we'll address them. And also feel free to register for Agri Innovators to access these presentations and to get more information on our programs generally. Again, Bevon, thank you very much. I want to move on to our next presenter, and this will be the final entrepreneur. I had the pleasure of meeting this colleague in our briefing, and this is Nelfi García. And Nelfi is doing some interesting work in the Dominican Republic. So we were in the Eastern Caribbean, and now we're going up north to the Dominican Republic. Now, Nelfi García is a social worker and founder of several community groups in her municipality, and she's also a tireless advocate for community causes. She has founded the artisanal chocolate factory called Chocolala, and she participates in various initiatives that promote the integration of women in all areas of society, as well as their inclusion in decision-making related to the development and progress of the municipality and the Dominican Republic generally. Nelfi has completed technical studies at the Infotech Professional Technical Institute, and she also has a background in business administration. She is, as we said, a tireless advocate for development and advancing the cause of women. We are really pleased to have Nelfi on our platform today, representing women, representing the Dominican Republic, and I myself, I'm a lover of chocolate. So now we have Chocolala. Nelfi, you have 10 minutes, 10 minutos, to deliver your presentation. Thank you.
So I would like to give you a presentation of Chocolala. This is a company managed by women and which arise because of this need, because women in rural areas must be able to support their families. Of course, these women therefore had to leave their communities and their families, and which was a problem because they used to depend on their families. And so we focus on chocolate, working chocolate, because this chocolate is only craft chocolate. It's very important for us. And we really want to have access to the local and international markets. There are many visitors who come and who visit how we do and how we grow cocoa throughout its steps. And the local and the international market is important to see how cocoa, grows.
Un momento, por favor. Un momento, Nelsi. Un momento.
A second, Nelsi.
To the English listeners, you have to select the interpretation feature and go to English in order to hear the translation. My apologies. For persons who are English speakers, you have to go to the interpretation feature. Okay, I hope everyone understands. Sorry, Nelsi, please continue.
So, yes, so this company is produces quality products and it focuses on the local market, but we would like to export, we would like to extend and our brand and what we do is is chocolate, and we use traditional methods, and it's very important for us to stick to traditional methods. So we try and get good prices for the raw material, and we try to get the product on time and good quality products, which gives us a good opportunity to work and ensure development. Digital marketing is also very important for us to commercialize products nowadays and provide support and develop oneself. And we also want to improve production and improve the quality of our products. Funding is essential for any company, mind you. This is clear, but we also need to try and find new resources and improve our presence on the market and increase our presence on the market. In the Dominican Republic, we have several challenges. We must face several challenges, and this is true. I must say, at global level, everywhere there are challenges, but bank requirements, they are extremely demanding when it comes to granting loans, and the interest rates are very high. And when the rates, come down a little bit, well, it's the major companies, those who have, those who are well connected. Well, they are the ones who make the most of these low rates, not us. Most banks also, and most financial institutions want guarantees, and it's a person, it's an entity, it's a moral or physical entity which must pay for your debt if ever you end up in this situation. And nobody wants to commit, nobody wants to sponsor a company or guarantee a loan. And so, but we managed to make the most of a certain number of opportunities. We managed to get a certain number of national and international grants. But the prerequisites are, of course, to already have a lump sum. And if I need to come up with 7 or 8 million, and if I don't have them to carry on with my activity anymore, so it's a bit difficult. But we are in a very rural area, and therefore it's very, very difficult indeed. And it's a bit, there's a kind of discrimination for us. Of course, there are opportunities and there are solutions as well. And we can create support programs for SMEs and for entrepreneurs. And we can collaborate, of course, improve working together, and in order to try and get these new companies starting. To do this, we've created alliances with a certain number of companies in order to improve commercialization at national or international level, and we're trying to ensure to reduce barriers because there are often barriers to commercialize our products. We try also we try to promote our products and try and incentivize people to consume traditionally made chocolate. And in the Dominican Republic, a lot of work is done. So we have many challenges to face, but I'm sure we can transform them into solutions. For instance, take digital tools and collaborations and the alliances that we can forge with other companies. I think that the Dominican Republic and the women who manage companies over there, SMEs, we have this major challenge to face. We managed, of course, to make a lot of progress, because I must say we are good managers, and often we have university degrees, college degrees, and therefore we can manage companies and businesses.
At some stage, following the pandemic, we showed how resilient we could be. And this was very important as we needed to ensure the right crop cycle. And that's where and when at the national level, at the global level, well, we were met with this shortage of many commodities, but also at the same time, funding was a major issue. I see that some of my colleagues, speakers that came before me, talked about the importance of communication. So yeah, I think it's very important to have the right level of communication. And with this, I give the floor back to you, Allister. Thank you very much.
Nelfi, I want to thank you for that awesome presentation. It really shows the value of collaboration and women working together, and the fact that you all are really focused on growth and incorporating the financing to drive that growth. And it's also important to note that you have professionals working with you as part of the organization, and that is commendable. I take the opportunity to invite persons to reach out directly to Chocolala, to contact you, to go to the Agri-Innovators site and get more information. But thank you again for that contribution, Nelfi. We want to move on to our next part of the program where we talk to the experts. And at this point, I will pass over to my colleague, Nina Desanlis, and she will take us to the next part of the segment. Let me introduce Nina. Now, Nina Desanlis-Perrin is a project officer in the Networks and Alliance Department at COLEAD, where she develops and coordinates global partnerships to support entrepreneurship development and sustainability in the agri-food sector across the global South countries. She organizes agri-food webinars aimed at showcasing innovations of farmer-led businesses and SMEs with key international partners such as IICA. Nina holds an MSc in Environmental Science for Sustainability from King's College London and a BSc in Public Administration from Erasmus University in Rotterdam. She is an advocate for sustainable development, international cooperation, and climate justice, working to promote resilient and inclusive solutions for communities and food systems worldwide. Nina has been leading the team along with UEFA in COLEAD, really driving this program. And as I told her early this morning, she has carried a lot of the load. And we're really appreciative of the work that Nina and UEFA do. So Nina, at this point, let me pass over to you to continue and take us to the end. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Allister. So hi, everyone. Well, as Allister just told you, I am Nina Desanlis-Perrin, Project Officer in the Networks and Alliances Department at COLEAD, and I'm based in Brussels. So thank you to the entrepreneurs and to Allister for this first panel. It was both interesting and engaging, highlighting the challenges and opportunities of agri-food businesses in accessing investment in Grenada, St. Vincent, and Dominican Republic. Now, for the second panel, we will hear insights from experts in the sector. Indeed, the full potential of entrepreneurs can only be realized if enabling conditions are strengthened. Regional authorities, banks, and development partners must work together to remove structural barriers, expand access to finance, invest in digital and physical infrastructure, and ensure gender and youth inclusive policies. So, we will first hear from Mr. Wayne Elliott. Wayne is the Manager of Technical Programs at the Caribbean Export Development Agency. He leads initiatives that enhance the competitiveness, sustainability, and the global integration of Caribbean businesses. With expertise in project management, economic analysis, and multilateral programs, his work focuses on private sector development, entrepreneurship, and climate resilience. Wayne, the floor is yours.
Much, Nina. Thank you very much for having us this morning, and good morning to all. Now, what I'm going to do today is just share a little bit about Caribbean exports experience with the financial space and financing agri-food entrepreneurs in the Caribbean. I'll give you a sense of our work, who we are, the projects that we have going on, the opportunities that are upcoming, and a little bit on how you can engage with us. So let's go forward. So Caribbean Export, we're CARIFORUM's only regional trade and investment promotion agency. We serve 15 member states across the Caribbean region. I'm sitting here in Barbados, where we're headquartered, and we also have a sub-regional office in the Dominican Republic. This gives you a sense of all the countries that we have activities, we have projects. Essentially, what we do is we crowd in resources from binational and multilateral partners. There's some of our own resources. And what we do is we really put them to the use of the Caribbean private sector and make them available for the advancement of private sector needs. Essentially, what we're trying to do is co-invest with the Caribbean private sector, mostly MSMEs, to really create the jobs, create the exports, as well as the social development outcomes that the region really wants to see. What we do and how we do it is really through capacity building. So you would have heard Bevon speak a bit about our capacity building, our technical assistance, and testifying to being a beneficiary of such. We also do quite a bit of research and analysis, helping to identify the most promising markets and really moving entrepreneurs towards export and internationalization. To some extent, we do grants. It's one of the areas where Caribbean Export is really well known and facilitating co-investment with Caribbean private sector for various needs. Usually these grants are thematic in nature. And usually they're implemented by the MSMEs that are awarded. On the second side of things, that's the trade and export promotion side. On the second side, what we do is quite a bit of investment promotion. We do deal facilitation. We assist Caribbean project owners to package their projects and really assist in getting them in front of the right investors, whether it be regional, local, or international. And so what we really do on the back end is quite a bit of matchmaking. Here's a sense of some of the programs that we have. There's the Regional Private Sector Development Program. This is our flagship program. This is work that we undertake with financing from the European Union. It's a $12 million initiative. We're smack dab in the middle of implementation, and quite a bit of support from this initiative is really what we're pushing out to beneficiaries throughout the region. The second one that we have ongoing, major one, is what we call GRIT, so Generating Resilient and Inclusive Trade. Like Gordon said, this one is really focused on women entrepreneurs. Essentially, it's financed by Global Affairs Canada, and we're aiming to touch 800 women entrepreneurs directly, with training and capacity building being extended to just about 10,000 more. This particular one is limited in its scope in terms of the number of countries, and we're using it as a pilot to really help to design and really tweak methodologies and how we support women-owned entrepreneurs. Digital transformation is also very important for us here at Caribbean Export. It is one of our strategic pillars, and essentially then we're working on what we term the Caribbean Digital Transformation Institute. Fundamentally, what we want to do is not only assist Caribbean firms with their digital transformation, but we've also partnered with the Inter-American Development Bank to create a regional standardized way to measure what that transformation looks like. And so in the press slide part, what I'm going to do is I'll include the link whereby you can actually take the survey. We call it the assessment survey. Essentially, you can take the survey, you can get a really good sense of how you're stacking up by way of your digital transformation and the digital transformation of your business to other businesses within your country, as well as you can benchmark it against other Caribbean islands. This will also come with an educational component, an e-learning platform, which we're hoping to launch in April, so please stay tuned. There's also a digital accelerator that we're participating in with, we call it the EULAC Digital Accelerator. Essentially, what we're trying to do is drive digital innovation and business venturing. And so it allows for partnerships between Caribbean firms, firms from Latin America, and firms from Europe And essentially what it does is it allows our MSMEs, which dominate our landscape, to really become part of digital solutions that are seeking joint ventures. If you're seeking a joint venture, and it really helps us to assist you in making it to your investment readiness stage. Essentially what we do is we provide acceleration services, we provide matchmaking services, and essentially then, you know, some of our MSMEs have gone on to actually create some solutions for some larger corporates within the Latin American and the European spaces. So what it does is it helps you to really scale. What the first opportunity that is currently open is under our EULAC Social Accelerator. Essentially what we're doing there is we're looking for high-pack social innovations. Fundamentally, the project is offering direct support, and what we're trying to really do is reduce the inequalities and foster greater social cohesion. This call is currently open. This is actually a call for resources. You could actually gain up to 100,000, between 100,000 and 250,000 euros. Of course, there are conditions to it. There are conditions on eligibility, and I'd encourage you to come to our website, basically to find out exactly if you qualify, how you qualify. We're looking for partnerships. It does facilitate cooperatives across the region, and that particular call is closing on the 8th of April. Capacity building is really driven through our PoorNet training courses, and these are going to be run throughout the Caribbean, coming into what would be year 3 of our European program. And so you should be seeing quite a few advertisements around capacity building and training. And within those modules, I heard quite a bit from the team on elements related to financial management and really about documentation. That's a documented weakness. We've heard it from the financing side. We've heard it today from the entrepreneurs as one of the strategies, or one of the winning strategies. And so we'll be bringing that capacity building and support into your countries throughout the rest of the year. Now, some other upcoming opportunities, we're going to be doing specifically MSME finance readiness workshops. These are going to be targeted specifically at the OECS countries. What we really want to do is get you past the hurdle. It's been a long time we've been hearing about the challenges related to documentation and not being able to pass the first hurdle in terms of accessing financing. And so this roadshow is really, and these workshops is really about, really short-circuiting that challenge and really providing hands-on experience to close those gaps. There's also going to be a series of digital transformation workshops, as well as stuff related to e-commerce development coming out during this year. And we're also going to be having the Caribbean Investment Forum, which is basically our largest forum related to investment and really packaging projects as well as opportunities for businesses in the Caribbean who are seeking to find regional or international investors. Yeah. Now, agribusiness is pretty critical to Caribbean export. We do touch quite a few agribusinesses. So far, since October 2023, which was the start of our European financing, it's the largest pot of resources. We've actually touched just under 1,500 beneficiaries who identify as operating within the space. This is just about 11% of the beneficiaries of the program so far. And usually what we see is within the spaces of agri-processing. Some has come through agri-tech and the digital windows that we have. A little bit of farming, but more so on the technological advances there. Fishing and agriculture is a similar story. And what we've been seeing recently is more the development of nutraceutical type products tied to primary produce that we have within the region. And so when you think of Caribbean export, we focus mostly on the value creation. We're not into primary production of sorts. We can provide you with capacity building in terms of structuring your business and how what we've seen work. We could provide you with access to some of those networks as well in terms of how you leverage and how you access some of the financiers. But we're into the value creation side. What we do is we really help you with your standards, your certifications, meeting those requirements, labeling, packaging, branding, assisting on your market position and how you really put forward your product and your pricing. Essentially, we package this all within our export readiness workshops and our training programs there. And fundamentally, what we're looking at is then how do you translate the commodity into a value-added product. So once you're on that path, you're looking to really create your product, or you have a really good product and you want to access an international or even a regional market, then that's where our support might be most beneficial to you. On the market access side, we usually facilitate attendance at quite a number of trade shows. This is where our agri-food entrepreneurs have probably benefited the most from our support. We've done quite a few international ones. We also do the regional ones as well. So if you really want to get your products out there, look out for our calls for market access and trade promotion type activities. We will have one export mission to Europe. This year, we'll also have one to Canada. So if those markets are of interest to you, please follow us on social media. You will have opportunities to be a part of those training cohorts. Now, specific to access to finance, a really good question then, Wayne, is where is the money? Do you guys have any grants? You would have heard all the entrepreneurs speaking about grants. You just missed the biggest opportunity that we'll have, or that we had just within the last 2 years, which was the bridge grants. We just closed those. Those weren't specific to agriculture. Those were more sector agnostic, but thematic focus, right? So it focused on digital transformation and the green transition. We had grants up to €100,000 for the green side of the window, and up to €50,000 for the digital window. Those grants will be awarded very soon, and you'll see a notification. So you may know an entrepreneur or two within your country who's benefited. On the right side are a number of the grants that we would have facilitated and we would have implemented over the years. And essentially, since 2017, up until the closure of the bridge, we estimate that we've done just about US $10 million in grant support. Those grants have gone to support equipment and technology upgrades, certification standards, process improvements, and sustainability improvements. So if those are the areas that you're interested in, then we'll be very happy to assist you in really making that co-investment with us, right? Those are all open grants. Those are all competitive. So you don't just call us or send us a really wonderful plan. It's usually an open call, which gives you the opportunity to participate. I see Nina turned her camera on, so let me just skip a little bit to what we've seen, what we've learned over time. Fundamentally, for us, access to finance remains one of the most binding constraints, if not the greatest binding constraint for agri-food entrepreneurs. Many firms lack the investment readiness. Some of the more critical fundamental steps, formalization, the records, and really the strong business planning. I think that continues to need strengthening. What we've seen, the entrepreneurs that have done really well are the ones that tend to target or are on the path towards exportation, because you need to get it right in order to export. So market access in our case seems to drive innovation and standard improvements across the agri-food value chain. What we do advocate for is the inclusion of more blended support types, whether it be grants as a first stop, or even if it's loans, but we do believe that it should come with the technical assistance required to manage those funds throughout their lifetime. And what we are advocating on is, a much stronger participation of women and youth within this space. Like where we've seen those projects do well, they've done really, really well. And we want to encourage women and youth, especially led initiatives, to come forward. We're here to support, we're here to welcome you. And you will see some of those opportunities coming out under our GRIT program. Nina, thank you very much for your time and for indulging me.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Wayne. Thank you for this very complete and clear presentation. I see many participants voice their interests in the program in the chat. So now we're going to hear from Perrine Duffaure. Perrine is an impact investment professional with experience in climate finance, agri-food value chains, and renewable energy. As investment officer at EDFI Management Company, she supports sustainable agriculture through the AgriFI initiative and serves on the board of the Fair Trade Access Fund. She has experience across Africa, Latin America, and Europe, focusing on investments that drive sustainable and inclusive growth. Perrine, the floor is yours.
Thanks very much for the introduction and for the invitation as well on this event. Very happy to present AgriFI, a program from EDFI Management Company. Just to give you a bit of context to understand a bit where we come from, EDFI Management Company is a company that is owned by the European Development Financing Institutions, if you know them, that are on the left side. And we manage funds from the European Commission. So all this to say that we apply, of course, high standards due to the shareholders we have, due to the funds we manage. And under EDFI Management Company, we deploy different programs, among which AgriFI. So maybe you can see on my screen, but basically AgriFI is one of the, let's say, early stage programs we manage, and I will explain further what we do, but we also have a program directed towards access to energy, and we also manage guarantees, but that's for big investments that are made by European DFIs. So just to briefly explain the aim at the beginning of AgriFI and Electrify actually was to unlock financing to an untapped market, to finance companies that have difficulty accessing financing, either from development financing institutions, which often have quite high minimum ticket sizes, or because local financing institutions require propose high interest rates, require very important collaterals and securities. And so many companies don't manage to access financing. So the idea was to try to address part of this gap. Of course, the gap is big, and we address just part of it. So with AgriFi, what we do is to finance. So the final objective is to finance and to improve the livelihood of smallholder farmers. That's really our key focus. But to be able to reach the smallholder farmers, we don't finance them directly. We finance them through 3 different types of institutions. Either impact funds, such as you've mentioned the Fair Trade Access Fund. That's one of our investees, or Altafin, that can finance then small companies with working capital facilities, with smaller loan amounts than what we do, for example. We also finance financial institutions or microfinance institutions that can lend directly to the smallholder farmers, because the tickets are way too small for us. And we can also finance SMEs that would have an impact on smallholder farmers. And for SMEs, we really want to focus across the value chain to make sure that we strengthen the value chain at each step. So from production to aggregation, processing, and distribution. So we are aimed to be a catalytic, flexible, and additional tool. Now, of course, we have some eligibility criteria because we provide financing as from 1 million euro. I know that it is already quite high for many companies, and you may think that we don't target really small companies. So indeed, we provide tickets from 1 to 5 million, meaning that we finance companies that have already substantial balance sheet size and substantial revenues to be able to repay this financing, which is as from 1 million euro to 5 million euro. We usually expect companies to have a proven track record, meaning that we expect companies, and I think that was mentioned before, to have proper financial statements that are audited by a third party. And this is really key for us to start assessing an opportunity that provides certainty on the financing and provides visibility, because on the side we'll try not to get collaterals from the companies. So we indeed expect a sufficient track record, financial sustainability. We focus on agri-food and the agri-value chain. I've already explained this. And we, of course, need the company to be impact-driven and to have a clear focus on smallholder farmers with the capacity to report on this impact. And I think that's also something that was highlighted before. We need to make sure that impact is actually going down to the smallholder farmers, but also that this can be reported. It means gathering data, being able to report them, being able to analyze them, etc. And I think that's also something that was previously mentioned. We provide long-term financing. So I think it's important that all companies understand the different types of financing that they need, either short-term financing, such as working capital for short-term needs, but also long-term financing, for example, for CapEx, for permanent working capital. And so we are part of those investors that can go up to 8 years with flexible terms. So we can provide from equity to debt, although debt is often an easier instrument because equity means that we need to exit at some point. And often there are no secondary markets in the markets we address because we really focus on emerging countries. As for our mandate, we need to make sure that we are additional, meaning that we don't crowd out other investors. What does it mean? It means that we can't be competing with local banks and we can't be competing with the development financing institutions. So we need to find the right spot where we can be additional with junior conditions, with grace periods, with subordinated loans, for example, so that all types of investors find their slot to finance those companies. On top of the instruments we provide, we can provide technical assistance, but that's only available for companies that are already investees or that are being assessed, or at least at a due diligence stage, and where we consider to provide a loan or an equity investment. Very quickly, we manage different facilities under AgriFI, and we have very specific mandates depending on the geography. Here, we're interested in the ACP regional window, which are countries from Africa, Caribbean, and Pacific, where our focus is mainly on Africa today, but we would be very happy to do something in the Caribbean, something we haven't been able to do today, maybe because the companies we've been able to talk to didn't match the eligibility criteria I've just mentioned, but we would be very happy to be able to finance a company in the Caribbean. As a brief overview, that's our portfolio today, but what's interesting to see is that we mainly provide debt, and senior debt is the easiest tool we have to deploy, and we mainly go direct or try to be as direct as possible, so financing directly SMEs instead of going through financial intermediaries. Senior debt and junior debt are, of course, very important to us. I've mentioned this. I think impact is very key for us. As a reminder, we've managed funds from the European Commission, which has a clear impact objective. And that's the reason why they're happy to provide this additional financing, which means that we have quite high standards in terms of ESG. We follow the IFC performance standards, and we are quite strict on that. We can also support the company meeting those standards along the way and along the maturity of our loan. But it's important that to track those KPIs. So of course we want to track the number of farmers that are reached, the production that is allowed with the funds, the surface cultivated, and also all money that has been mobilized. It's important for us to also leverage other investors in the region. Just a very quick example, those are few companies we have in the portfolio just to show that we invest along the value chain. So we start with inputs and services. We can finance production, although it's a small part of our portfolio. processing, and also distribution. So it's very important for us, and so happy to receive proposals across the value chain. We have clear understanding, and we think it's key to tackle all of the steps. This is my final slide, just for those that would be interested and think that there can be a match. Happy to look into that. We have quite an extensive process to assess opportunities, with first a screening, so to understand a bit what's the company about, does it meet all the requirements and the eligibility criteria, and based on that, we go twice to the investment committee. We have an on-site due diligence to make sure that the investment is actually aligned with what we can do. And then we go to the contracting phase of disbursement. So the whole process can take up to 1 year. I think it's important to have this in mind when fundraising, and also to anticipate this when you start thinking that you will need funds to expand your company. That's our team. Very happy to hear from you, and if you have any good projects you would like us to finance, happy to hear from you. Thank you very much.
Sorry. Yeah, thank you, Perrine, for this very insightful and interesting presentation. Now for our last panelist, we are going to hear from Weiting Yao. Weiting is a sustainable finance professional specializing in access to finance, agribusiness, and impact investment. As project manager at COLEAD, she supports agri-MSMEs and smallholder farmers across Africa, the Caribbean, and the Pacific in improving investment readiness and accessing financing. Weiting, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Nina, and thanks a lot for all the panelists for your very engaging and very informative presentation so far. I think one thing that has I have been very resonated about, it's what has been shared from Akata Farm. So it's access to finance. It's about formalize your business early. It's about maintain the records. It's about align with your funding priorities. And with that being said, I would like to quickly introduce you what we have been working at COLEAD. And for your info, I'm Weiting, as Ina has presented. I'm project manager at Access to Finance Department and been working on these topics in the past 4 years to build access to finance support, as you can see on the screen. And we all know, I think many of you have experience in real life when you are engaging with source of funding. That source of funding often ask questions about if you have clear business plan, business strategies in place, or if you have proven track records, as Perrine just pointed out earlier. Or if you have a collateral, and I've seen some questions in the Q&A or in the chat about that. I understand that many of you have already strong products and growing markets, yet securing funding can feel very difficult because of those questions posed by the source of funding. And the reason is not always that funding isn't available. As you can see from Weiting, there are several grants that presented in the Caribbean, and there are also other programs that are supporting, or there are also other instruments like debt, equity available out there. And so often the question is about being ready to access it. And access to finance is a journey, and that's one key message I would like to share with the whole audience. It's not linear, and it's not about one single step. It's not about you can be prepared, you can access the funding overnight, but a whole journey along this way. And there are many myths that are around it from time to time. For instance, only large companies can get funding, where investors only care about the profit. As you can see, Perrine was pointing out as well, like at AgriFI, it's very important about your social and environmental impact as well. And sometimes not all the projects actually need external finance, and that's something we encounter often as well. So in reality, source of funding, what they're actually looking for for is the clarity of your business and the credibility of your business. And that's they want to know exactly if your business makes sense, if the team can manage the risks, and if your figures work. And this is where key documentation, your business model, your business plan, your financial plan, having track records become essential. And we understand that not all the business start at the same point. It might be the same case for the current 120 participants among you, and that is perfectly normal. Some of you maybe are in the stage of validating your business model, and others may already have a business plan, but you need a stronger financial projections. Investment readiness is not one size fits all, but that's exactly why at COLEAD, we have developed the investment readiness path, as you can see on the screen. So you can see it has been broken down into 4 different steps, from 0, business model validation, to first business plan support, second financial plan support and strategic decision support, and lastly matchmaking. So what does it mean? And think of them as a foundation of your business conversation with a source of funding. First, you need to have a clear business model. This means understanding who your customers are, what value do you bring, and how your business makes money. For example, if you're exporting some sort of fruit, source of funding will want to know who are your potential buyers, what kind of contracts do you have secured, how stable is the market demand. And once you have figured out those questions, second, you need to move on to build, based on the concept that you have, a robust business plan, which is a document that explains your strategy, your market, and how you plan to grow in the coming 3 to 5 years. And just having the market information is not enough. And you also need to have a solid financial plan, which shows the cost projection, the revenue estimations, the investment, and how you plan to use the external fund if you need any, and most importantly, the cash flow projection for the next couple of years. For instance, if you're running let's say, vegetable processing unit, your financial plan should clearly show the cost of the raw produce that you have purchased, the labor cost, the packaging, the logistics, and how much funding you actually need. Only after these elements are clear does it make sense to start identifying and engaging with potential source of funding, be it grants, being debts, equity, or other more innovative instrument, or a blended way. And since not every business is at the same stage, have the same stage or maturity of the business, we would like to introduce this structured learning journey that is designed to help AgriSMEs to strengthen the key elements investors are expecting. And instead of trying to solve everything at once, the investment readiness path help you progress step by step. For example, you can start with a webinar, what we call Demystifying Access to Finance, which breaks down the importance of access to finance in agribusinesses, but also a step-by-step guide in how to guide you through this A to F journey. And then if you're interested in knowing more, and then you can go to a self-study course where you learn how to structure your business model. And later you might be participating in a collective training sessions where you work on your financial projections with experts. And for companies with very strong potential, there may be also post-training support or even tailor-made projects, depending on the availability of our programs in the Caribbean. In other words, the idea is simple. Wherever you are today at a stage, there's a next step you can take, and COLEAD is here to facilitate you with the next steps. Since the time is quite limited, I would like to conclude my part of presentation with one key message. Access to finance is challenging. We all know that, but preparation makes a huge difference. When your business model is clear, when your strategy is well documented, where your numbers are credible, and you do have audited accounts, from external third-party auditor. You move from asking for funding to presenting an investment opportunity, and that's going to be a very different conversation that you're making with source of funding. And through the investment readiness path, COLEAD aims to support agripreneurs like you in making that transition. And thank you very much. I'm looking forward to the rest of the conversation and the Q&A, and all the resources I've mentioned so far will be shared during the chat. I will be sharing the links of the webinars, of the trainings, and I'm looking forward to exchanging with you during the Q&A. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Weiting. Okay, so thank you to our wonderful panelists for the very interesting insights. This is the end of our second panel. And I must say that today's diversity in the presentations was quite impressive, and I'm certain we all learned a lot. Now, some of our participants have some questions for our speakers. We are going to start with Ms. Perrine Duffaure, because I know she has to leave soon. So we have a few questions. The first one, someone asked, so if a small family-run farm that still operates in a traditional manner and wish to modernize, they will not be eligible for your financing at this stage. Is that correct? And then a second question, someone asked about if they could apply for loan if they are based in Kenya.
Yes, so regarding the family business, indeed, I think family businesses are always quite challenging. And also what's very important for us is to have an impact on smallholder farmers and not only on the farm. I want to highlight also that revenues need to be at a certain level so we can provide financing. So we expect revenues to be at a minimum of 2 to 3 million euro or USD to be able to absorb at least 1 million euro investment. So that's also to be considered in the size of the company. Regarding Kenya, yes, of course, we are mainly active in Sub-Saharan Africa. We have already a few investments in Kenya and can invest almost everywhere in Sub-Saharan Africa, as well as Sri Lanka and the Caribbean, as of now.
Okay, thank you, Perrine. Now we have a question for, two questions for Wayne Elliott. I think one you already answered, but in the chat. But if you can maybe answer now, so that everybody can hear your response. So the question was, we need CARICOM food distributors to be mandated to distribute CARICOM products. Do you think this can be achieved? So that's the first question. And then the second one is, could you share some success stories coming out of your financing program?
That's for me as well, correct? Or for Wayne?
No, that was for Wayne.
That's
I
for
believe.
Wayne. Okay.
I think so. But if you have something to say, you can also answer, of course.
Yeah.
Mr. Elliott, are you still with us? Okay, maybe not. Okay, well, we'll go to another question. There was a question that was quite general as well, so I don't know if someone wants to answer. The question was, given that non-tariff barriers are a burden on developing countries, how can we take advantage of technical assistance to export to other countries in Europe? I don't know, maybe more on the expert side, Perrine or Weiting, if you have an answer for this question.
Weiting, go ahead.
I guess I'd love to hear about more about the context of the question for the technical assistance part. But I would believe the value of technical assistance, especially when it comes to market access in facilitating the trade, I believe there's certain value around it. And if Perrine from AgriFI experience, if you have some similar project in the past, feel free to share some experience.
I'm not so clear on the question. Which perspective would you like to get? Sorry.
So this was a question from Peterson Jr. So Mr. Peterson, if you want to maybe specify a bit more, but he was talking about Haiti. I think he's from Haiti, but I don't know exactly the context of his question. Well, let's see if he maybe adds something in the chat. Mr. Wayne, you're not back? No, I don't think so. Okay, then we had another question from oh, Mr. Wayne is back.
Yeah, I'm here. Could you just give me the question?
Sure. So you had two questions. I know that you already answered one of those in the chat, but maybe it would be great if you could say it out loud again.
Sure.
So the first question is, we need CARICOM food distributors to be mandated to distribute CARICOM products. Do you think this can be achieved? And then the second question was, could you share some success stories coming out of your financing programs?
Sure, no problem. So in the first one, the word mandated is a very strong one. I think what can be achieved is a greater awareness, a greater willingness of Caribbean or CARICOM distributors to actually have CARICOM products on. In my experience, meeting with some of them here, they're constantly looking for CARICOM products. They want to put some of their own products, not just on CARICOM shelves, but they want to place them internationally. We also have a really strong interest from particularly the EU. The Canadian market is also catching up, looking for those authentically Caribbean products, right? So I think one of the challenges that we have is really around consistent supply, right? Whether it be quality, whether it be quantity. And I think some of those challenges we kind of create within our own space, So I do think there is space for greater collaboration between producers and distributors. But I'm not absolutely certain about mandating those relationships. I think that's a business relationship, and I think it's a little bit more complicated than forcing. I think it needs to be willing. And in terms of success stories, you heard Bevon, she spoke about it. It really depends on how you engage with Caribbean export. So we would have some entrepreneurs who really just come forward because there's an interest in training. They want to, participate maybe in a structured program, all the way to firms like Nanido. I think I saw them here, who've been participating in some of our activities, attended capacity building sessions, attended trade shows, and actually, realize international contracts out of some of that support, or maybe built some relationships with international distributors and interests, and was able to showcase their products internationally. So it really depends on how you interact with the program. We have quite a cadre of grant awardees over time that have leveraged our co-investment to go on and expand their institution, their firms. And really do what it is that they settle to do, whether it be create jobs, export, or really just create process efficiencies with the resources that we've provided. So it really depends, and I would encourage you to follow us on social media, check out our website. There's so many programs and activities that we're facilitating. There must be something in there for each and every entrepreneur who's interested. Thank you.
Thank you, Wayne. So Mr. Peterson Jr. Added something about his question from before. So he said, given requirements such as certification and issues related to protected designation of origin for exports to Europe, do you provide technical support to SMEs to help them meet these requirements? Weiting,
Yes.
Perrine,
Yes,
or
we
Wayne?
do.
Yeah, on our side, indeed, so that's something that can support our investments. For example, the EUDR, so we can provide technical assistance on that, and I think COLEAD has been quite active on the topic. Yeah.
Indeed, and I
Yeah.
think in terms of market access certifications, COLEAD has been providing a lot of technical assistance in supporting our SMEs, for instance, Global Gap, like UDR, but also fair trade certifications. I think we've all had like different cases in the past. If you have any questions in particular related to COLEAD support, don't hesitate to check out our website and also reach out to us so that once we have an open program that will allow us to conduct tailor-made technical assistance for companies in Caribbean, we will be happy to welcome you.
Yeah. And Nina, I mean, of course, yeah, within our programs, we do offer this type of support. In fact, we will have a program that will be launching, I would say, within the next 2 weeks, specifically focused at the European market. We call it the Launch to Market program. It takes you all the way through all the fundamentals, the requirements, how to price for the market, how to, into the market. And we're also going to be doing some standard and certification work later in the year. And so the resources, I think they're a bit scattered. They're all over the place. And it is something that's so fundamental to what we need to do that usually it comes along with most of the European finance programs. And so I think it's best for entrepreneurs to really kind of figure out exactly which type of support is the one that's meant for them. I think when I heard the other two presenters, they kind of focus a lot more on the production side as well. And maybe those types of certification. We're looking for value add products, right? And so those are the types that we will support. And we're happy to, if you reach out to us and it doesn't quite fit what we're looking for, we're happy to refer you to some of the other programs. But guys, don't sit on your hands and, think that it's going to land on you. Please reach out and we're here to help.
Great, thank you. So I see there are a lot of very specific questions in the chat, in the Q&A box as well. I don't think we will have time to answer all of those, but we can continue the conversation on our forum on Agri-Innovators. We do have time for one last question. So I'm just going to check. Okay, for example, we just had a last one here. Which of the programs would be more suited to working with a cooperative working to improve quality of production from seed production to business processes to mechanization? I don't know if one of you wants to answer.
So I think we could go by elimination. Caribbean Export wouldn't be the best place. Where we could offer you some support is on the business side of things, on the structuring, exactly, how to formulate on the business side. But because it's production, then it wouldn't be best place for us.
I think on our side, that's something we can consider. I mean, across the value chain, I'm not clear if it's processing, mechanization, which parts to be financed. It seems to be quite a broad financing need. But what I would say is depends a bit on the size expected and the impact related to it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your answer. Maybe a last question before I give some words of conclusion, sorry. So this was a question asked by Delon Simpson, who's the founder of Cookie Aquaculture, a sustainable venture based in Guyana. And they're saying that while they've successfully scaled their production of tilapia and tambaki, their primary barrier to further expansion remains access to traditional financing. Due to the legal status of hinterland land titles, which cannot be utilized as bankable collateral. So their question is, what would be your best suggestion on accessing financial backing? So I guess this question is more about, collateral. I think, Weiting, you talked a bit about it during your presentation. If you have anything to answer.
No, I mean, I have a perspective. it's a challenge. So particularly within our countries with indigenous communities, land is communal. There's no specific title to it that you can leverage. In one country in Dominica, what we've seen is the council, which is the decision-making body for the indigenous people. They've actually started to come forward. I think it's really up to the financial institutions, right? But there's you can't utilize a title to the land, and so you'll need to find more innovative ways of securing that loan. In some instances, what we've seen is the approval or the creation of or recognition of movable assets. So there are movable assets registries now, and I think there's Jamaica has one. I think maybe Guyana was working on theirs. They passed legislation to formally recognize movable assets within businesses to help solve some of those issues, but it's not widespread. And unfortunately, I don't have the specific solution for you in this particular area. But yeah, I mean, it is a big challenge. It is something that we've been hearing over time. And yeah, I think movable assets, utilizing the assets that the business utilizes to make money is probably one of the easier areas, and it's really a policy thing.
In terms of securities, if I can add, indeed, titles is maybe the easiest, but it can also be considered indeed to have movable assets, to consider receivables. I mean, it depends also on the business, but to consider receivables as a collateral, or even to pledge shares in the company, again, depending on the type of company and the shares and the value behind, but different type of securities can be taken. It depends, of course, on the flexibility the investor has.
I would just like to. Hello.
Go ahead, Bevon.
Yeah, I would just like to interject briefly. All based on how long your business has been operating as well, because you can use your production data, cash flow to secure buyers that prove bankability. So it all depends on if your business is actually generating revenue at time. Do you have contracts in place that could be used as some sort of not collateral, but some sort of security to show that you have that revenue stream coming in?
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think what's the message of lacking the collateral, the message behind the lacking of collateral, it's the investors don't necessarily understand or trust the risks behind it. So by demonstrating very predictable cash flow, or showcasing you have secured markets or offtakes, or by reducing the perceived risks through some sort of structure, and also having those movable assets or other type of some alternative collateral structure by having some equipment, machinery, inventories. Those are also the alternatives. And then there's also alternative of value chain financing. I don't know if that's something you have already explored. So yeah, that's my take here.
Thank you. Thank you to everyone for answering the questions. I will proceed now to the closing of this session. So yeah, as we come to the end of this session, I want to thank you all, the panelists, but also the participants for being part of this important conversation. So today we've explored the challenges Caribbean agri-food entrepreneurs face in securing finance, such as limited access to credit, stringent collateral requirements, and financial products that often don't fit the realities of agri-food businesses on the ground. So these obstacles are significant, but as we've seen today, they can be overcome with the right tools and support. Whether it be blended finance, value chain partnerships, digital solutions, there are practical ways for businesses to access the capital they need. And the stories shared by our entrepreneurs today remind us that with a good, solid plan, good records, formalized operations, and strong market connections, investment is achievable. So the takeaway is simple. Improving access to finance isn't just about more money. It's about building the right support system, strengthening business readiness, and working together. This includes entrepreneurs, financiers, governments, and partners in order to grow a resilient and competitive agri-food sector in the Caribbean. So I encourage all of you to take what you've learned today and to put it into action. Strengthen your plans, explore partnerships, and continue building the networks that can help your business grow. By doing so, we can create agri-food systems that are not only stronger and more sustainable, but that truly empower the people behind them. So today we have seen that collaboration is essential. By linking entrepreneurs, experts, investors, and policymakers, we can accelerate learning and unlock new opportunities. So in this spirit, I invite you to join AgriNovators, our online platform, where you will find resources from this session, but also a forum, a community forum, where you can share ideas and innovations that are transforming our food systems. So again, thank you to everyone, to the panelists, the participants, the interpreters, my colleagues from COLEAD, but also my colleagues from IICA, with whom we are very happy to collaborate on this Caribbean Agrifood Business Series. Thank you for your participation, your questions, and your commitment. And we'll see you all in June for our next session. Thank you, everyone.